Trish Gleason with the World Wellness Show, and today we have with us Dr. Raposo, and he's going to talk to us today about how to bring your educational message to the world to help everybody to be more proactive about health, wellness, anti-aging, and anything. Hi, doctor. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Trish. How are you?
Great. Why don't you just go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll get into some of your educational information that you've got for us. Thank you.
Fantastic. So I've been a chiropractor since 2001. And for the last 7 years, I've actually had a publishing company helping other healthcare providers become authors on various subjects. I've been working with chiropractors, acupuncturists, naturopaths, functional medicine practitioners, and we've been helping them establish authority with their practice and helping them with their positioning. And it's been an absolutely amazing experience.
Well, doctor, what made you want to start your publishing company? Was it to help the doctors? What?
Sure. So in 2001, I graduated from Palmer College in Davenport, and I graduated in March, and I opened up in June, and I looked like I was 17 years of age, and so I looked very, very young, and I definitely had. I didn't have that much experience, so it wasn't a winning combination. So I realized early on that I needed to establish authority and establish positioning. So that's what I did. It took me approximately a year to put a book together. And I created my first book, Honor Thy Health, Steps to Extraordinary Energy and Vitality. And it covered like the basic foundation, the basic pillars of health and wellness. And from there, coincidentally, I became quite successful at a very short period of time. So much so that I hired an associate doctor, and within a matter of a few years, the doctor purchased my practice. And so after that, I was like, you know what? I know there are a lot of people out there that would like to put a book together, but they just don't know where to begin. And, the statistics are rather daunting and rather dismal when it comes to putting a book together. 95% of people that want to put a book together never either start or never finish. So it's a rather daunting task. So for the last, I would say 15 years, I've been prototyping and I've been refining the process. And for the last 7 years, we have it down now. And so the reason why we do what we do is because there are a lot of people out there that need help. And, I just want to share some interesting statistics with you real quick. So right now, the 4 leading conditions that are being treated in the United States are diabetes, obesity, heart disease, and arthritis. And right now, when you compare the costs of healthcare, if you compare it from 2003 to 2023, within a span of 20 years, for diabetes alone, the costs went from $132 billion to $327 billion. And the number of people treated in 2003 was 18.2 million. And then you compare that to 2023, which is 37 million. And the projected costs in 2028, 5 years from now, are going to be approximately $410 billion alone when it comes to diabetes. And so you look at obesity, in 2023, it was $75 billion. In 2023, it was $190 billion. And the number of people being treated for obesity skyrocketed from 31 million to 42.5 million. So we're talking about almost a 50% increase in the span of 20 years. So, I mean, I can go on and on, but the dilemma is this, is that unfortunately, mainstream medicine doesn't have a financial incentive to reverse conditions. They have a financial incentive to manage them in a way that makes financial sense for them. The problem with mainstream medicine is that if you are to introduce a approach that can actually reverse a condition, then it penalizes mainstream medicine. So for example, if there was a cure for cancer, and if it was announced on Fox News, you would see the stock market crash. Why? Because all of these profits that are associated with cancer treatment, chemo and radiation and things of that nature would plummet. So the financial model right now, when it comes to mainstream medicine, is not incentivized to reverse conditions. And so the reason why I do what I do is so that I can actually help my clients. And it doesn't just have to be, healthcare providers. It can be anyone who wants to share their message to the world. And what I've realized early on in my publishing experience is that it is what I consider to be one of the most underutilized and overlooked strategies on how to position yourself as an authority. Now, this is based upon some research that I looked into by an individual by the name of Stanley Milgram. Stanley Milgram was a social psychologist from the 1960s, and he was very intrigued with some of the trials that were happening in that time based upon the Nazi soldiers going to trial, and their defense was that they were just following orders. Now, he found this to be very intriguing, and he wanted to see if there was any validity behind this defense. So what he did was he created a series of experiments where 3 people were involved. So person number 1 was the authority, literally wearing a lab coat, a white lab coat. Person number 2 was the test subject. And person number 3 was the individual that was receiving shock. So every time person number 3 was asked a question, and by person number 2, and person number 3 gave the wrong answer, person number 1, the authority, would order person number 2 to initiate a shock to person number 3. Now, obviously, this was, a mock-up, right? So person number 3 was not receiving actual, shock. But the fact is that he was acting as if he was receiving it. So the research progressed as follows. So every time person number 2 would ask a question to person number 3, and person number 3 gave the wrong answer, not only would person number 2 be expected and told by person number 1 to administer the shock, but he would also have to increase the intensity of the shock. And this was all by design. So what happened was eventually the intensity reached a level that person number 3 was actually like screaming in agony, and person number 2 would be like, you know what, I don't feel comfortable doing this. This is wrong. I'm hurting this person. And person number 1, the authority, was like, it doesn't matter. You're still going to administer it. Now, at the end of the study, Stanley Milgram was, no pun intended, but he was shocked at the results. He found that 80% of the test subjects administered lethal levels of shock. Now, he was so fascinated by this that he repeated the studies because he just couldn't believe that the percentage was that large. So he repeated it, and the conclusion was the same. It was approximately 80%. So he came to the depressing conclusion that 80% of society blindly obeys and abides by those that they consider to have authority. Now, stated differently, 80% of society will blindly defy those without authority. So it doesn't matter how logical you are with the average person. It doesn't matter what data you present to them. If the person presenting the data is not seen objectively as someone that possesses legitimate authority, then it doesn't matter what they say. They're going to be seen with a viewpoint of being illegitimate, being pseudoscientific, not being credible. So, again, I can't emphasize the importance of, if someone wants to position themselves with legitimacy, putting a book together, hands down, is one of the most powerful ways to do that.
Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. So you're an expert at helping doctors. Let me make sure I've got it straight. You're an expert at helping doctors put themselves in the forefront into a position where the world looks at them more like an authority.
That is correct. So it's not just doctors. I've worked with individuals that have like a skincare line. So, for example, with skincare, there are a lot of chemicals that are found in skincare in the United States as compared to Europe. And so I helped a client recently put a book together on, the devastating effects that, standard skincare produces, as far as like endocrine disruption and things of that nature. So it's anyone who has a message that they want to share. And again, the easiest way to do it is to do it through a book. And now what I tell my clients is that 90% of the effect of a book comes from two things. It comes from the thickness of the book, and it comes from the aesthetics of the book. Now, the thickness of the book represents the amount of specialized knowledge that one possesses. Now, that specialized knowledge equals competence, and competence equals the perception of confidence in the individual that is listening to what you have to say. So the amount of specialized knowledge reassures the individual that you have a high degree of intelligence, and that high degree of intelligence equates to your ability to solve complex problems. So that's number one. The second thing is the book needs to be aesthetically pleasing. It needs to look beautiful. It needs to create an emotional response. It needs to evoke something within them. Now, what is secondary when it comes to the book is the actual content. Now, why do I say this? 90% of people that purchase a book don't even read beyond chapter one. Now, I am not saying for people to put together a crappy book, but what unfortunately I have seen is people expect or think that you need to create this perfect book in order for you to be seen as an expert. And the fact is you need a comprehensive, simple to understand guide on the subject. You don't need something that is a paradigm shift or something that is, unlike anything that's out there on the market. There is so much opportunity for the average person. There's so much space. Why? Because, the market is untapped. We're talking about maybe 5 to 10% of the market is tapped into with regards to health and wellness. We have a whopping 80% of society that still needs to be reached. And so, even if we increase the number of authors by 10x, we still wouldn't be scratching the surface.
So I just want to recap a couple things. So you're saying the thickness of a book indicates to people your intelligence level?
It does, yes. And so what I mean by that is there's a certain range between 230 to 250 pages is the sweet spot. Anything less than that, especially with the notion of, well, I want to put a book together so that people read it. So I want to put a small book together. The problem with that is this, is that if you put a book together that's around 100 pages, the book is not going to be seen as a book. It's going to be seen as a booklet. And if it's seen as a booklet, it's going to be seen as an introduction to a topic. It's not going to be seen as a comprehensive guide. So unfortunately, it's not going to produce the effect that you want with the book. And another thing is the cover. I can't emphasize this enough. The cover needs to be aesthetically pleasing. Unfortunately, there are a lot of people out there that think that they have to put themselves on the cover. Well, if you are attractive, that's fine. But God forbid, if you have a silly smirk on your face on the cover and you look like you just finished smoking marijuana, okay, it's not an ideal presentation. So we recommend to our clients to just create something that's very simple, but very aesthetically pleasing. So, and the reason why we get into this is because there's a book called The Speed of Trust, and it was written by Stephen M.R. Covey. Now, if the name sounds familiar, he is the son of the late Stephen R. Covey, who wrote the classic, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Now, Stephen M.R. Covey wrote the book called The Speed of Trust. Now, in this book, he breaks down trust into two things. He breaks down trust into competence and character. Now, competence is your ability to solve problems, right? The degree of specialized knowledge one possesses. Character is where your heart is, right? So if people feel that your heart is in the right place, if they feel that you have a genuine interest in their well-being, then they're going to trust you as it relates to your character. Now, in healthcare or any healthcare related topic, what matters most is competence and not so much character. Now, I'll give you an example. If you look at the average medical doctor has a high degree of compliance with their recommendation, not because they went to a recent How to Win Friends and Influence People seminar. It's not because they have become very charismatic. You have some of the most dull doctors out there that have some of the worst bedside manners out there, and yet they have amazing compliance, godlike compliance. Why? Because the individual is seeking an individual or a doctor who has the ability to solve their problem. Now, if they have to deal with a rather arrogant doctor, then they'll deal with them reluctantly. All right, it's not an ideal thing for them, but they will deal with it. Now, with alternative healthcare, unfortunately, with alternative healthcare providers, they feel, and even like a health coach, they feel that they need to be compassionate, empathetic, they need to sympathize, they need to be a great listener. None of that is bad, but I am here to say that what the client needs first and foremost is they need to be able to observe objectively that you are very competent. And if you have that competence, then it creates for them reassurance and peace of mind that there's a very high likelihood that you will be able to solve their problem. So there is a marketing legend by the name of Jay Abraham. Jay Abraham has rubbed shoulders with the likes of Tony Robbins, with Fred Smith from FedEx. The guy's responsible for billions of dollars in increased profits. And Jay Abraham has a great saying, and he says, people are silently begging to be led, but they're silently begging to be led by those that they believe have trust and have character and have competence, right? So if you have a high degree of competence, then there's a very high likelihood of this prospective individual seeing you as the answer to their problems. But if they cannot see that, then you're going to get very, very frustrated because you might be passionate with what you do. You might give away a lot of time and effort with regards to like a consultation. But ultimately, at the end of the day, if they cannot conclusively come to the conclusion that you know your stuff and that you have a high degree of competence, then they're going to second guess whether or not they want to move forward with you.
I could see where anybody writing a book needs a publisher and a producer really to guide them through the steps. I didn't really know that, but I can see now after hearing your expertise that it's very important. So we're talking about you helping anybody produce their book, and I just want to make sure the listeners and the viewers realize it could be what categories. It could be a massage therapist, a dentist. It could be a hormone specialist. What other areas may somebody want to get their message out? Can you?
Absolutely. Yeah. So it could be a health coach. It can be someone that focuses on hormones. It can be a life coach.
Okay.
It could be
Mental health. A mental health.
Sure. It could be mental health. It could be someone that wants to help organize, someone's life.
Mm-hmm.
It could be someone that focuses on setting goals with their clients. I mean, there's no limit to what you can write about. And the
Diet or even a yoga instructor or exercise. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, yeah. So personal trainers, personal trainers. Obviously, the chiropractors, acupuncturists, the naturopaths, even pediatric chiropractic. I mean, all the niches. There's a saying: the riches are in the niches.
Mm-hmm.
So if you put a book together that is highly niched, that's really, really important. And we've developed a very specific method, and I'm going to share some of it with you guys right now. So what I do is I recommend that you come up with a 16 chapter narrative with the book, okay? And 16 chapters will encompass enough So ideally, you want approximately 10 to 12 pages for each chapter. Now, if you have a Word document, that's going to equal around 160 to 180 pages in a Word document. And you convert that into a 6:9, which is the standard format for the standard size book that is published either on Barnes and Noble or Amazon. You're going to convert that 160 to 180 page book into approximately 230 to 250 pages in a 6:9. So that's all you need to focus on. And so the key is create a narrative that's around 16 chapters. And then from there, you create a flow, a narrative that that resonates with the ideal client that you want to work with. And we have a very specific methodology that if anyone is interested, I'd be happy to share it with them. They can go to my website and find out more information on it. But we've developed a very unique proprietary process that allows our clients to create a book within a very short period of time without compromising quality. So we're very, very proud of what we have created. And yeah, we're so excited about the future, honestly, because I truly believe that we are on the verge of a breakthrough when it comes to healthcare. We're realizing that we can't sustain what we're doing right now, and that it's inevitable that if we do not change, and if we don't change course, and we don't change the trajectory of where we're going with healthcare, we will bankrupt the United States. A lot of people talk about, terrorism. A lot of people talk about the deficits, but what I consider to be the greatest threat to the United States is our healthcare costs. We can't sustain this, and not just that. There's a difference between lifespan and health span. So lifespan is how long one lives, right? So the average person lives around, I would say, early 70s, right? 73, 75. Now the health span is how long do you live whereby you experience a high degree of quality of life. Now, for the average person, that's becoming shorter and shorter. So right now we're talking about maybe early 60s, late 50s. And so there's a huge discrepancy with time in regards to one's lifespan and one's health span. And I truly believe that there are some cutting edge breakthroughs that are emerging that will allow people to not only live long, but they're going to be able to live a higher quality of life for a longer period of time.
That makes a lot of sense. So if somebody wants to promote themselves, educate the world, help the world have a proactive approach to life, to wellness, to everything, how long of a process is this? They would email you or go to your website, get your information, and then what would be the process time-wise?
Yeah, so the process is going to be around 6 to 8 weeks, believe it or not. It might take a little longer, but the length of time is not going to be based on our end. It's going to be based upon the client reviewing the content. So we create collaboratively with our clients. We're very, very specific with our process of content creation. And yeah, it's pretty much 6 to 8 weeks. And then after that, we help our clients upload their books either onto Amazon or to Barnes and Noble. And then from there, it takes around 7 to 10 days for our clients to get their proof so that we can approve the work. And then once they approve it, then they're able to order author copies. And so we don't get involved in the ordering of books. I know that there are a lot of publishing companies out there that are very gimmicky, and what they do is they'll charge a certain fee that will include a number of books. The problem with that is that when those books run out and it's time to reorder books, they charge an exorbitant amount for those reorders. And what they then recommend is like, well, for example, they'll charge around $10 per book. Now, with us, we don't charge anything associated with that. We just tell you to order the books from Barnes and Noble or Amazon, and the cost per book is going to be around $425 to $475, depending on the exact page count. And the reason why we focus on this is because the notion of, well, um, you'll be able to order it from us for only $10, but you'll be able to sell it to your client at $20 and make it a nice $10 profit. The problem with that is that that's not a fair, accurate assessment to what's actually happening. So 95% of people that become authors don't make money directly from the proceeds of selling a book. I think that's a huge misconception. A book will open opportunities for you. So a book will allow you to get on podcasts, for example. My God, if you just focus on podcasts and started with an introduction with, hey, I am so-and-so, I've written a book on X, I would love to talk about, A, B, and C on your show. There's a tremendous opportunity there, because a lot of these podcasters want people that they consider to be an authority, because that's what they want to bring to their audience. They want to bring a high caliber, high quality person that they can interview. And becoming an author just creates that reassurance for the podcaster that they're going to deliver high quality content for their audience. So that in and of itself is just an incredible opportunity. There are podcast directories out there these days that you could easily tap into, and you could easily get on 1 to 2, if not 3 shows a month, maybe 1 a week. And you do that for, a year, my God, you're going to be very, very busy. So the opportunity to tap into very related, like-minded audiences is easier now than ever before.
So we're running out of time, so I have to kind of speed things up. But so you're saying that really you should look at a book normally as a loss leader, as a way to get into other interviews and podcasts and notoriety.
Yes. One thing that I tell my clients is, when a book is done, I think the easiest way to create a very unforgettable first impression is for you to create a handwritten message on page 1 of the book, right? So for example, let's say you want to work with a prospective client. You put the following message on page 1. Dear Mary, and this is handwritten, right? So by you. Dear Mary, comma, may this book inspire you to take your health, your life, to the next level. I am honored to have this chance to serve you on this path. Sincerely, Jane.
That's neat. That's a neat touch.
Yeah, it's great. It creates a very beautiful, unforgettable first impression.
Well, I have learned a lot, and I know our viewers will, and hopefully you'll share it. We'll place it in. It will be produced and broadcast in 137 countries around the world on Phoenix TV, Phoenix TV. You can download Phoenix TV from any smart TV free and watch the program. Thank you so much for being our guest, and we'll look forward to talking soon.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Doctor, so much.